Well, hi again, everybody, and welcome to another episode of 100 Yards of Football. This is our NFL wrap-up show with Joey Clinkscales, Brian LeBel, and I'm Harper LeBel. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. Big week of NFL action last week. It ended last night with 2 Monday night games. Every once in a while, we get an extra pleasure, if you will, of getting a second Monday night football game, and we are going to talk about each and every one of the games. But before we do, I want to make a real quick mention for those of you that are looking for something that you might want to be a partner with or to donate to. Faith with Works is a local charity here in the Atlanta area started by Janine Rice. You can reach her at It's by Janine, Jennine, on Instagram. 404-791-4472 is the phone number that you can reach. What they're doing, Faith by Works wants to help our homeless situation here in the Atlanta area. Woodruff Park at 91 Peachtree Street in Atlanta. It's a few blocks west of the Grady Hospital. On Friday, the 19th, just a couple of days from now at 9 o'clock, they're going to hold a rally. What they want to do is they want to get first aid. They want to get toothbrushes, toothpaste, shampoo, clean towels, fresh water, anything that you would be able to supply with somebody. Cash is always appreciated, but if you have gift cards or anything that you could contribute, including non-perishable goods, it will all go to people who absolutely need it. Next time you stop to consider giving into a local or a national charity, please consider Faith by Works. Again, their rally is going to be at 9 o'clock at Woodruff Park on Friday, the 19th. We appreciate all that they're trying to do to help others. And guys, we're going to try to help ourselves a little bit. We're going to be selfish and talk about what happened last week. Joey, did anything in particular happen that you wanted to discuss or look at? Was there any game and there were some exciting ones. I have to admit, Joey, I came home and the Giant Cowboy game was just going into overtime, and my son Brian was just shaking his head going, oh my gosh, I can't believe how this game is going. A lot of good action. Your thoughts?
Last week, we had a great array of football going on in the National Football League. Some of it was good football, some of it not so good, but we really had a lot of good things that happened this past weekend, starting with Saturday and moving on through Sunday and finishing up last night. So we had a lot of close games. We had one huge blowout. But, everybody's, we're 2 weeks in. So we're beginning to find out what each team has to offer this season.
Brian, aside from the Cowboy-Giant game, was there anything else that jumped out to you? Was the play better? Were there less penalties? Were there more big plays? Did it look smoother, like it was really game 2 instead of just a preseason game?
A lot of the offenses were a lot cleaner. You could see that as far as the scoring. There was, with the exception of a couple games, everything was sort of trending in the direction more and more points, which I think the league loves, right? The fans love. They want more points every single week. But I think that the usual suspects, right, like the Lions, so there was a lot of questions about them. They scored a ton of points this week. They look back to their Ben Johnson form, which a lot of people were ironically against him, right? But it was a lot of fun. It was a good week to watch. Like you said, like it was said earlier, tons of scoring, and then a lot of the games were close, which is always great if you're a fan.
Well, one of the things, Joey, that I know that is on everybody's mind in terms of how smooth an offense goes is how well the offensive line played. Tell me what your particular thoughts are and what you watched during a game to give the others a perspective of it. What is it about left tackle or a right guard or just what the center is doing that has really captured your attention and helped you to better analyze what's going on offensively?
Well, let me start by saying this. The line play, both sides of the line, they're the key to victory. We can talk about receivers, we can talk about quarterbacks, and quarterback obviously is an important position. But as we've seen these 2 weeks, the offensive line play is the key to winning football. Those teams right now that have really good lines, they're probably 2-0 or at least 1-1. You look at, I'll give you a few examples. You look at how the Bills are playing. That their offensive line is the key. I mean, obviously Josh Allen, but their offensive line is the key. You look at Tampa Bay last night. Their offensive, I mean, they're missing their left tackle, but they moved the center over, and they haven't missed a beat. They continue to play well. You look at the teams that are struggling, like the Steelers, my team, the Steelers. Mm-hmm. we want to talk about Aaron Rodgers, but guess what? He's been running for his life for 2 weeks now. And at 41 years old, that's probably not going to last. I mean, you look at the Chiefs. They still don't have the offensive line right. They have the left tackle right, the young kid. The right tackle, as Coach Parcells used to say, if you get 2 penalties from a position, is almost like a turnover. Okay, so every time that offensive lineman gets a penalty, especially the same guy repeatedly, it's almost like a turnover. You look at who do I have here? You look at how the Giants are playing. Offensive line is the key. You look at the Dolphins. Offensive line is the key. You look at the Texans last night. Offensive line is the key. If you don't have a solid offensive line, then you have problems. And in my opinion, offensive linemen are becoming harder and harder to find because college football is different. Everything is spread out. Linemen aren't asked to hold blocks, and they aren't being groomed the way they were years ago. So I think the guys coming up, you will find really good offensive linemen, but it's imperative that you have an enormous teacher to prepare these guys for the next level.
Joey, you bring up a great point.
You aren't always getting that.
Joey, before I go to Brian, you bring up a great point in that the college game, you've got some schools that are run and shoot, and they don't know how to run block very well. They can pass block a little bit, but they're basically just saying, I got to give you enough time because he's going to get the ball out in 2.2 seconds. In the NFL, that doesn't always work. So finding a guy that can both go forward and go backwards, and you know what I'm saying, but for the average fan out there, they go, I don't know what you're talking about. He better be able to run block well. He better be able to combination block with a guard or tackle. He sure as heck better be able to pass pro by himself against one of the best, whether you're an edge rusher, you got to go against Micah Parsons, or you got to go against somebody that is 365 pounds and is only there to knock you on your back. And that is a difficult thing to find. And that's why the first rounders are becoming more of a premium athlete. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I mean, and just think about this for a second. Most teams in college football now, they're in spread offenses. A lot of them don't huddle up. They call plays at the line. They stand there. They go. And guess what? They're in shotgun. So they aren't under the center. So you're having to retrain that. You don't have play action pass. There are a lot of things that don't translate from the college game to the pro game right now.
They've got a wristband that tells them basically you've got number 3 or 2 or whatever. Where if you get Red Ride 884 Jet, there's some play calls that have 17 different pieces to the puzzle that you've got to be able to figure out. And it isn't easy always to do that. But there's some that are still a little bit pro set, but not many in the college game. So that's an interesting phenomenon that will obviously affect offensive line coaches. Real quick, again, before I go to Brian, I always give credit to the Detroit Lions. First rounder, third rounder, first rounder. That's what their offensive line is made up of. And guess what? They don't have really many problems. They're not without problems, but they have fewer because they have invested in their offensive line in a very unique way.
Correct.
Brian, your thoughts here going into week 2.
Well, if you want good offensive line play, what you saw in that first drive with the Giants, Darnell Hudson with 4 penalties. I think that was the first time an offensive player has had 4 penalties on the same drive. I think it was since 2000. And it was mental stuff too, like the unnecessary roughness stuff. I think that was just frustration, right? That was just letting emotions boil over. And it's just kind of, you got to know when to keep your cool. And then the false start stuff, it's mental, right? A lot of it wasn't necessarily him getting beat. It wasn't a hold. It wasn't him being downfield. It wasn't timing stuff. It was just, you got to keep your head right in some of those situations where if you want to talk about offensive line play, I know that's what you guys brought up first. I would just throw out the tape to that Giants and Cowboys game initially, because there was not a lot of good offensive line play. I think there were 30, there were almost 30 penalties in that game. There were almost 300 yards and penalty yards. It was a sloppy game, but for whatever reason, it was also a shootout, which was very weird game, very interesting game, one of those divisional games. But I think you see a lot of that offensive line play in Minnesota, right? I think the Vikings are still kind of lacking with their offensive line. I remember watching the playoff game last year against the Rams where they just got bullied up front. They were doing whatever they wanted, and they're always playing behind the 8 ball. A lot of these deep shots, a lot of these timing routes that you need to have are disrupted, right? And your quarterback is back there running for his life. He's hearing footsteps. Offensive line play, like you were saying, it's like you're saying, Joey, it's crucial. You can't really do anything else if you can't block up front first.
Correct. And those offenses that are timing offenses, those, you get 5-step drop. When you put that back foot in the ground, the ball is out. 3-step drop, ball foot in the ground, the ball out. With a good defensive line and a poor offensive line, that quarterback is under pressure. By the time he's ready to let the ball go, he's got pressure in his face. And Lord knows that quarterbacks hate pressure in their face. They rather have it coming from the outside where they can step up in the pocket. He can't step up in the pocket if he's got pressure in his face. So now he's forced to bail left or right. And really good defensive coordinators, they can scheme pressure to force a quarterback to bail one side of the other and send a blitz off that side. And I'm just telling you, it's a headache.
Yeah. Well, you remind me of Drew Brees many years ago going up into the office and saying, if you don't sign my 2 all-pro guards and my Pro Bowl alternate center, I'm leaving. I'm out of here. So they had to bust the cap open to do it. But Drew understood and he realized, man, if you don't have the guys up front to protect me, this is not going to work. Well, let's look at something that did work, guys. Week 2's Thursday night, the Packers 27-18 winners over the Commanders. What is my Jordan Love stat? He was 19 for 31, which is okay. It's a good night. 292 yards, 2 touchdowns. But as much as anything, guys, the Packer defense only gave up 51 rushing yards to the Commanders, and they gave up 4 sacks. The Commanders' offensive line did. Talk a little bit, Joey, about this here first game, how good the Packers look right now, and are the Commanders coming back to earth? Is this a sophomore slump for them from a quarterback perspective, or do you think they've got everything it takes to get it turned around? They just went against a buzzsaw.
Well, I think Green Bay is here to stay. Okay, Micah Parsons has lit a fire under that defense, and everybody's benefiting from it, both defense and offensively. He has been a terror. He is causing havoc, and when he's not making plays, someone else is. And I think Washington, while their offensive line is pretty good, I don't think they're special. And guess what? Green Bay has a lot of special pieces, and they have players at each level. And when you have players at each level on the defensive line, at linebacker, and in the secondary, you can really do some great things on defense. And Washington, they weren't able to run the ball. And in these first 2 games, Green Bay has done an excellent job of keeping guys under 100 yards. And again, Washington had 55 total
51,
rush yards?
51 rush
yards.
Yeah.
It's hard to win that way, okay? Because now you become one-dimensional. And if they know that the quarterback's got to throw, they're pinning their ears back and they're coming.
Joey, I would imagine if you were the defensive coordinator for the 2000 Ravens, the 1985 Chicago Bears, there are some other teams that you can easily consider. Is it a good thing right now to be the defensive coordinator for the 2025 Green Bay Packers? You can dial up just about anything. And as long as guys just remember to stay in their lanes and do their job, the linebackers, the secondary, the safeties, obviously your edge rushing, it's a good place to be right now. You're going to make some things happen.
Guess what? In this league, if that Green Bay keeps playing like this, that guy's name will be in the front runner as a head coaching candidate.
Yeah, absolutely. Brian, here are your thoughts in this game.
The Packers, it's beating a dead horse, but just they controlled the tempo. They controlled everything up front. I mean, Jaden Daniels threw the ball 42 times, only completed it 24 times, but it was short stuff. There was nothing vertical. He was averaging less than 5 yards of completion. That's kind of been a theme around the league so far. A lot of short stuff, a lot of quick hitters. I know a lot of teams are playing cover 2 shell, saying, "Hey, listen, you're just not going to beat us deep." But I think Austin Eckler was their leading rusher with 17 yards before he left with an injury. It's not just the pass rush. You look at Micah Parsons and you say, hey, we're going to bring him in. We're going to get after the quarterback, right? We're going to make him uncomfortable on passing downs. We're going to that's the key, right? We want to get the ball out. We want that, short passes. Our guys can come up and make tackles because we like our guys in the secondary. We like our guys in the linebacking core, but it's the run game too. They're stifling people. They did it against the Lions as well. They did, obviously the Commanders' backfield isn't as good as Detroit, but they stifled Gibbs and Montgomery not 5 days prior, which that's the best duo in the league. You ask any GM, you ask anybody that's played against them, that's probably the best 1-2 punch that anybody has at that position in the league. Jaden Daniels was contained well. Everything the Packers have done And you have to think were they maybe scheming for Parsons earlier, because you don't just draw all this stuff up, right? If the front office saying, hey, maybe a week or two beforehand, we're going to do everything we can to make sure Mike is in the building. So, all the coaches that need to, hey, let's just start pretending like he's on our roster, right? We'll draw up some stuff for him specifically, but they're flying all over the field. They're tackling really, really well. I don't have the numbers on the broken tackles, but I haven't seen very many. I watched both the Green Bay games, and they looked very, very clean. Jordan Love, like you said, he hasn't been great, but he's been incredibly efficient. Completing, hey, if you're completing over 60% of your passes, you're good. Jaden Reed left with an injury, which is, it's kind of crazy to think about it. They've been very efficient on offense. Tucker Kraft might be the best tight end not named Brock Bowers in football right now. Josh Jacobs is doing his job, but they don't have Christian Watson and they don't have Jaden Reed, and they're still clicking and they're still scoring and they still look really, really good.
Yeah, and Kraft, 6 catches, 124 yards from the tight end. So, he's getting up the seam. He had a touchdown in this ball game, and the Packers, we'll talk about him throughout the rest of the year, but they are looking very impressive. They're at 2-0, and the Commanders are 1-1. Next game we're going to look at in Cincinnati. I don't know how to look at this. We won the game, but did we lose the war in this? We lose our quarterback. Jake Browning is going to be our guy for a while. He came in, did a pretty nice job. His numbers are, 21 to 32, 241 yards, 2 touchdowns, but he had 3 interceptions. Joey, give me a thought here about the Bengals just overall from a personnel perspective. You're a busy man right now. You've been on the phone quite a bit trying to straighten out what you're going to do and how we're going to replace certain pieces that are all going to be affected by Joe Burrow's absence now for at least 3 months.
Well, the one thing I don't think Cincinnati has done from a personnel standpoint very well, again, we go back to the offensive line. Their offensive line has not played good for a couple years now.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay?
Right.
And even with Joe, they've invested a lot of money in Joe. They've invested a lot of money in the 2 receivers. They've invested a lot of money on the defensive side of the ball, but they haven't invested a lot of money in the offensive line. And, again, you can't be efficient as a offensive football team if you can't run the ball. And Joe is in shotgun 98% of the time, 99% of the time. So everybody knows what you're going to do. You're either going to turn around and hand the ball off, or you're going to take 2 more steps and get ready to throw the ball. And guess what? At this point, you have pressure in your face. He's always trying to avoid pressure in his face. And that's one of the things that cause the injuries. Now, is it whose fault is that? Is it the personnel fault? Is it the agent's fault? Because now, you have a minute amount of money in certain players. So you have these issues that you have to discuss from a personnel standpoint. But that being said, Browning, he's played before, so that's a good backup, and they've signed a couple other guys today to come in and back Browning up. However, Browning's first order of duty is to make sure he gets the ball to Chase and the other receiver that they've paid a ton of money to, and not blow the game, because Joe will be back, maybe 3 months, maybe sooner, maybe he's gone for the year. But you have to learn to not lose games, to have a chance to win at the end. You can't lose the game in the first half through interceptions.
Well, you brought up a couple of very interesting points, including the agent, for example. If I'm the Bengals front office, I'm going, I'd love to give you a better offensive line, but you know what? I can't pay anybody because I gave all the money to Joe. So you want to give some of that money back so I can go sign somebody? That's never going to happen. So it's a very interesting juggling act from a personnel perspective, as well as anybody. And speaking of personnel, Trevor Lawrence, Brian, 24 of 42, 271 yards, 3 touchdowns. That's not a bad day at the office. However, Trevor's unable to beat some of these teams, especially on the road. Give me your thoughts here on the Jaguars. Are they better off right now? Etienne had 71 yards on the ground, but the Jaguars are now 1-1. They go to Cincinnati and they end up losing, but there's still some issues there in Jacksonville.
He had a bad interception on the plus side of the field. Other than that, though, I think he played all right. I look at the Jaguars receiving core right now. Brian Thomas Jr., I know Liam Cohen alluded to the fact that he isn't 100%. He has a wrist injury, but there were a couple instances where he was going over the middle and he pulled up and he looks like he doesn't want to get hit. So I don't know if it's more serious that we're leading on to, whatever's going on there, but he has to be the guy for this offense to go, right? That's where they went out and they drafted him. He had a tremendous year last year. And as he went, the Jaguars went, right? The running game was something that wasn't necessarily consistent last year. They've done a much better job through the first 2 weeks of saying, hey, we're going to run the ball and then try to throw it vertically. I like this receiving core, but if Brian Thomas Jr. is not playing as well, it looks a lot more average than when he is, right? Travis Hunter, I think he's a tremendous talent. As of right now, he's an average NFL receiver. Obviously, that can change, but I think they're still trying to figure out if they want to put him more on offense or on defense. Lawrence was fine. I think he played well enough to win the game. This was a sloppy game from the quarterback position, right? 5 interceptions is a pretty significant number. But, I think the Jaguars have a chance, maybe less so than what I thought at the beginning because with how well the Colts are playing right now. But this division is kind of up for grabs. And, again, we're always going to look at the quarterback, offensive line, but also the quarterback as far as how well a team is playing. I look at the other side, the Bengals. Jamar Chase had 14 catches. The next leading receiver was T. Higgins. I think there were 3 or 4 guys that were tied with 3. I love Jamar Chase. I think he's the best receiver in the league, but you got to get these other guys involved, right? When Joe Burrow goes down and then Jake Browning has to come in and throw the ball 32 times, that's an issue. I need to be able to give the ball to Chase Brown. I need to be able to run the ball. I need to be able to take some pressure off my quarterback. And I think that's part of the issue, too, is Cincinnati hasn't been able to run the ball well. As much as the offensive line is bad, we could throw some misdirection and play action at you if we're able to successfully move the ball on the ground. There wasn't a whole heck of a lot of that. They end up winning the game, which is great. Browning has experience, like we said earlier, so they're not totally in the dark, right? I mean, he's got to be the most ready backup in the league right now, playing behind Joe Burrow with what's happened to this team over the last handful of seasons. But if you're Cincinnati, the good news is, best case scenario, you're 2-0, right? You lose Joe Burrow, but all you got to do is kind of hover around 500 maybe and hope to sneak into a playoff spot. I don't know when they play the Cleveland Browns next, but hopefully that's a game maybe because I know they had a week 1. Maybe that's a game you could steal, but things look really bleak for a team that's 2-0 right now.
All right, Joey, you want to before we move on? Did you have a thought too?
No, it's just tough. I mean, we talk about the way teams structure their offense. It's hard to have a complete offense when you're always in shotgun. It's hard to run play action if you're not under center. And those are the things with these offenses today that a struggle. They aren't balanced because they aren't able to run the ball effectively or throw the ball effectively when they really need to because they aren't given any misdirection. They are not under center and they can't fool anybody with play action.
The game is changing. We can discuss that all the show long, but we won't. Jaguars are 1-1. Bengals are 2-0. Next game we're going to look at is the one that I mentioned. I was kind of teasing with Brian when I had come home from taking my youngest son from baseball practice. Hands in the just on his elbows were on the table, just going back and forth for a bunch of different reasons. Brian, we won't go into that, but over 1,000 yards here. Cowboys prevent a disaster. Going 0-2 this early in the season would have been bad. They're 1-1, 40-37 in overtime. First time we've ever had a kicker send it to overtime with no time on the clock and win it in overtime with no time on the clock. But the Giants, 450 yards on 30 receptions for Russell Wilson, 3 touchdowns. What an amazing game, back and forth all the way. Brian, we'll start with you.
What's crazy is the Giants, they did not run the ball particularly well. A lot of what they did was they said, hey, Malik, you're going to run a go route and we're going to throw it up and we like our chances against everybody that's lined up on the other side. It worked. He was picking on Diggs. They were picking on everybody in the secondary. It didn't really matter. They liked all their matchups. Malik was obviously taking advantage of it. One thing that kind of was a little off about this game is the Cowboys, they played the Thursday night opener, right? So you have 3 extra days to get ready for this game against a team that only scored 6 points the week before. So if you're looking at it, the Cowboys defense looked pretty good against the Eagles. Not great, but they played well enough to win the game. If CeeDee Lamb doesn't have those couple of drops last week, this is a 2-0 football team. But they just looked outmatched. I mean, both teams had a ton of penalties. The Giants did. I think it was almost an NFL record for how many penalty yards they had in the first half. and they were still able to go out and do almost anything they wanted on offense against the team. We talked about it last week. I asked Joey, I said, hey, at what point do you go to Jackson Dart, right? And I think Russell Wilson maybe heard a little bit of that from some of the people around him, because he said, no, not yet. It's still my job to win.
Not yet.
But Brandon Aubrey is kind of the star of this show, because when they're playing indoors at home, if they get anywhere near midfield, they got to feel comfortable trotting out their kicker to at least give them a chance, right? I mean, even if it's a 50-50 shot, if they get anywhere near midfield, they feel like they can put 3 points on the board. And I don't know if there's a bigger advantage in football right now than that, right? Because you're thinking, if you get a touchback, we're starting at 35. We only got to get 2 first downs. We feel confident sending our guy out there to give us a chance to get points. And he did it 60-plus yards with no time left on the clock. It looked like it didn't even phase him, right? And then they sent it back out in overtime from, I think it was 50-something. He said, it's a chip shot for me. This is not the same thing. It's incredible. Brandon Aubrey is probably the best. I think he's one of the few guys in the league where, position-wise, you could say he's separated himself from the pack, right? He's number one. Everyone else is kind of in a different tier. But Javonte Williams, I'm going to shout him out. He was an outcast with Denver last year. He had another phenomenal game. Russell Wilson, Malik Neighbors, tremendous game as well. This game was a lot of fun to watch if you like fantasy football and points being put on the scoreboard.
Well, it was certainly close. And Joey, 0-2 with the Giants. Do you feel good in New York right now, or is this still going to be a struggle?
Oh, it's going to be a struggle. I mean, there's no doubt about it. It's going to be a struggle because their offensive line, ultimately, when they face a team that plays real defense, like the Cowboys didn't, it's going to be a problem. Now, they did things this weekend for Russell Wilson that he's comfortable with. He's able to get back, throw the ball deep. I mean, he's still one of the best deep ball throwers in the NFL. And he did that a lot, and he's got a great receiver in Malik Neighbors to do that with. So they did the things this week that they weren't able to do last week versus the Redskins, and Russell looked pretty good. Threw for almost a career-high 450 yards, I believe. So it was amazing. On the flip side of that, the Cowboys' defense is a struggle. Now, I honestly think the Cowboys came into the game feeling themselves a little bit because they were, a team last week that played well enough to win but didn't win. So they were probably feeling themselves a little bit, knowing that Washington only scored 6 points. And Washington surprised them. The Giants surprised them. So when that happened, they were on their heels, and they never really kind of got it going again because defensively, especially in the secondary, like you said, the Giants did exactly what they wanted to do. Malik Neighbors said, I'm going to catch it on you. I'm going to catch it on you. And if you bring your cousin in out of the stands, I'm going to catch it on him too. So it really didn't matter. Yeah. So it's interesting from the Cowboy perspective. They really have holes in that defense. I'm not sure about the linebacker play at all. They have some real concerns on that defense.
Let's go to the next game here. We'll talk a little bit about the 0-2 Bears, but the Lions turning things around at home at the opener, 52 points right there. Joey, you got to be happy if I'm Jared Goff, 334 yards, 5 touchdowns. Everything seemed to work at a time where you really needed it to work to kind of get yourself in some momentum going into the rest of the season, but very impressive home victory there for the Lions.
This was a big game for the Lions. They had just come off the loss where they didn't play particularly well versus Green Bay, but they were at home opener versus a coach that they knew. I think that was important. And Jared Goff felt like he had something to prove. I think they had 5 they had 5 touchdown passes and maybe 5 incompletions on the whole game. So they took it up a notch. Their offensive line played really well versus Chicago's defensive line. Yeah. They stifled Chicago's offense for the most part. I mean, Chicago went down to score on the first drive like they did the previous week, and then it was a struggle from that point on. And Chicago still has holes in that offensive line. I know they tried to address some of that in the offseason, but they still have a lot of things that they need to correct to be a playoff caliber football team.
Yeah, it's still early, Brian, but were you impressed there with what, real quick, just what the Lions were able to do? And the Bears are still struggling. They're 0-2. It seems like nothing's working right now the way they want it to. They did get a touchdown in 3 of the 4 quarters, but it was a Lions day.
Well, this is the team last year that we watched every week, right? The Lions were this team. It wasn't anything, this isn't anything out of the ordinary for them. They were spectacular last year. Now, the question was, especially after their performance in Green Bay the week prior, hey, is this team going to drop off because of the loss of Ben Johnson? They kind of answered the questions to that a little bit this week, where, Amon-Ra St. Brown was tremendous. Jared Goff was efficient as he can be. Laporta got involved a little bit. Jameson Williams was the deep threat. That's what his job is. They were able to hit him for a deep touchdown. Jahmyr Gibbs, 12 carries, 94 yards. David Montgomery had 11 carries as well. They rushed well. They threw well. They did everything they wanted. The Bears, whenever they go into the locker room for halftime, I don't know if they should just stop doing that, because they had the same issue last week in Minnesota. It was a decent game, right? They gave up a late touchdown in the first half, but it was 28-14. And then they come out in the second half, they just get blown out of the water. They can't do much else. This defense looked tremendous against J.J. McCarthy the first half last week. They come out in the second half. Vikings make adjustments. They're able to end up winning the game. They have a tremendous fourth quarter. I want to say they scored 3 touchdowns in less than 15 plays, and they couldn't do anything in the first half.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's just, obviously Ben Johnson, new coach, still trying to figure out his team, what he's got to make some adjustments. But Ryan Poles has been there for a while. They've drafted a lot of talent. They've brought talent in via free agency. At some point, you have to start winning some football games. And when you're losing consistently to the Packers, to the Vikings, to the Lions, it really puts you behind the 8 ball, right? Those are your division games. At the very least, you want to be able to try to split. But things have looked kind of bleak in Chicago. Caleb Williams is on fire. I think the first 15 that they're scripting obviously is working, because they looked really good week 1 and they looked really good week 2. But everything after that just seems to be kind of a different story. And, it's not totally unexpected what we're seeing from Chicago. But, if you're a fan of the team, it's at some point we need to start winning some football games again.
Rams go to Titans. Joey, real quick here. Titans fall to 0-2. They lose 33-19. Offensively, I'm okay, though, right now. I'm giving my rookie, I'm giving my new franchise quarterback a little bit of time. We had 13 points at the half. We only scored 2 field goals in the second half. Tell me what you're thinking if you're Tennessee right now.
I'm thinking we need to simplify things a little bit. I think they have. I don't think they've given the quarterback the whole playbook. From a talent perspective, he's got a nice arm. He's pretty accurate for the most part when his feet are underneath him and he can do the right things. He has ability to scramble. Like the touchdown he threw across his body. You wouldn't normally do that. That's not how you play quarterback in the NFL unless you have Patrick Mahomes skills. Yeah. And he's a lot closer to Steve McNair than Patrick Mahomes, in my opinion, as a football player. But he will continue to grow. They have to continue to grow the offensive line, and they really need a couple more explosive players on offense. So if you can run the ball with efficiency and you have better outside weapons, then he'll get better as well. So I think it's a marathon, not a sprint. People want them to be winners right now, and it's going to take time.
Brian, if I'm Matthew Stafford, I throw for 298 yards, 2 touchdowns. We get a win on the road in an AFC contest, right? You only got 3 more times you're playing against the AFC. This is just one of those in terms of everything that you need to do to win and get in the playoffs. They checked this mark off. This is a team they needed to beat. They did so handily. They were trailing at halftime, but they really opened up in the second half. The Rams, I think their second half was very impressive, and I'd be very happy if I were coaching them.
Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams both had very good games. I think if they can kind of establish that as a really solid 1-2 punch, and both those guys can stay healthy all year, that's a tough combination of wide receivers to deal with, right? And you got a guy like Matthew Stafford who, listen, I don't know as far as the ability to process the game, as far as his accuracy, everything that he's done well. He's been doing it for almost 2 decades now. He's he's one of the best to ever do it. Honestly, I'll say that right now. But he's got weapons around him. As long as he's got McVay calling the shots, I think the Rams are a team to be reckoned with. Especially, you look at the division right now. Cardinals look pretty good, although they played maybe the 2 worst teams in the NFC to start out. I'm interested to see how they play this upcoming week. The Niners end up getting a win, but I don't know what Brock Purdy's situation is. I don't know what George Kittle's situation is. And then Seattle's very up and down, right? It depends on which Sam Darnold you're getting on Sunday. But the Rams are a very consistent team. We kind of made fun because remember they traded away all their first round picks and they just kept trying to build talent to win and to win and to win. And they keep bringing guys in via free agency or late round draft choices. And it shows because they're winning consistently. And I think this is going to be a team. Obviously, this is a playoff team, in my opinion. And I think they're going to be a force to be reckoned with come January if everyone's healthy. But I mean, they came out and they made their adjustments in the second half and they did what they had to do to win a game on the road. If you're the Titans right now, I think the main thing is let's get our young guys some good reps. Let's get them developed. Let's keep everybody healthy, especially Cam Ward, right?
Yes.
Maybe try to I think they kind of pivoted a little bit. Tony Pollard got a lot more of the workload this week, and he did a decent job. 20 carries for 92 yards. I think that's a lot of what they're going to try to do. Run the ball well, take a lot of pressure off their young quarterback. That throw he made was pretty cool to be able to see that. Obviously, I think the coaches in his ear say, no, throw it away. And then it ends up being a touchdown. Sometimes it's backyard football. But I think the main goal here, if you're the Titans, is this isn't our year, but maybe if we can win a couple of games down the stretch to show that Cam can be our leader. We have some talent here. We just need to bring in some more guys to build. But, I don't think this outcome was really too surprising to anybody.
2-0 Rams, 0-2 Titans. Then we move on to Miami, a place where the Patriots have often struggled because of the heat, the humidity, everything going on there. They end up getting a nice win. They're 1-1 right now. Tua had 315 yards and 2 touchdowns. Am I still worried as much about the Dolphins? Did they show anything, Joey, that made you think, okay, I'm not really impressed with them, but they didn't look as bad? Or is this a bad loss at home against a very average Patriot team? What's your thought here on this one?
I would go with the latter.
Okay.
I have real concerns about Miami. I just don't know how they're going to be good enough. And let's back up. They don't play well in cold weather. You better win games at home when it's 80 degrees, because when you go to Buffalo at the end of the season or in New York at the end of the season when it's 40 degrees, your track record says you're not going to win the game. Okay, so I think they're major. Again, I said it last week. I think there's some major changes coming in Miami. I just don't know how they correct it, because again, they still have some issues on the offensive line. Defensively, they have some issues. Again, you were playing against a second-year quarterback. You were playing against a team who will take the personality of their head coach, which they're going to be tough. They're going to be physical. They're going to know exactly what to do. And if I'm being frank, Miami has taken the personality of their head coach a little bit, and that bothers me a lot more than I'm a lot more concerned with Miami than I am with the Patriots about the direction of the team. Yeah,
interesting how you say that. I'm not sure what to make of this, Brian. The Tyreek Hill situation, right? He's got a little bit of trouble right now. And all I need to do is just make some big plays, and this is all going to go away. That's not necessarily true. Now, he did play well. He had 6 receptions, 109 yards, no touchdowns. But, yeah, there's some other issues going on in their locker room.
I don't think he wants to be there. It's just one of those things where I think they had a players-only meeting last week, right? That's not really where you want to be as a team, having players-only meetings after week 1. They were I can't remember who it was, but there was someone I was listening to, a former player, who said, if you're having a players only meeting at that point, realistically, you have to know that the head coach has lost the locker room, right? And I think Mike McDaniels was supposed to come in and be this offensive guru. He's a Shanahan, he's a McVay, he's a LaFleur guy. He's on that same tree. I think for a while he was, obviously before the Tagovailoa injuries that they've had to deal with, right? They've had to do some maneuvering, and to his credit, he's done the best he can. But if you look at the box score, the Patriots didn't do anything spectacular, right? There wasn't a whole heck of a lot. Now, there were the 2 special teams touchdowns back to back, but if you take that out of the equation, they ran the ball, play action, very traditional. And when they got the ball in the red zone, they put points on the board. That's all New England really did. And Tua had a decent day. He missed Tyreek a couple. There were 2 passes he had where he could have hit Tyreek for more yards, obviously. And I don't know if it changes the outcome of the game, but he had a tremendous bounce back game, especially from week 1. The biggest concern to me is the run game. Devon Achane didn't do much on the ground. I think he was at less than 3 yards a carry. I think they had one run from Malik Washington that was over, I think it was their longest run of the game. I think it was only over 6 yards. The Patriots did a phenomenal job keeping them in check. And I think that, attests to what we were talking about earlier, where their offensive line play it's not there right now. And when you don't have a good offensive line and you can't run the ball and you're putting a lot of pressure on a quarterback who's taken a lot of hits and had a lot of injuries, you're going to be behind the 8 ball. And I don't think the Patriots are a powerhouse in the AFC by any means. They, at best, I think they're maybe the second best team in this division. And they went into Miami and they beat the Dolphins in a game the Dolphins needed to have.
Yeah, Patriots 1-1 now. 33-27 is the final there. 0-2 is where the Dolphins have fallen here after the second week, and they may need another players-only meeting just to that's about when when things aren't good when it's 0-2. You got to turn it around, and they may need to have a bigger shovel in order to get themselves out of the hole that they're digging right now. In San Francisco, Joe, I'll tell you right now, 2-0. You may call it winning ugly. I don't care. It's winning, and San Francisco is kind of dealt with all the injuries and the problems they still have. Mac Jones comes up with 279 yards, 3 touchdowns for him. It wasn't the prettiest game you're ever going to see, but you know what? 100 years from now, it's just going to count as a win. 26-21 against the 0-2 Saints.
The Niners have always liked Mac Jones. When they took the I can't think of the kid's name right now, the quarterback in the first round who came
Trey Lance.
When they took Trey Lance, yeah. Mac Jones was a guy that they brought in that they really liked. Now they took Trey because they felt like he had more upside, but Mac is a kid that has great football acumen. He's going to be accurate in the short to intermediate area. He's a sneaky good athlete, being able to move his feet and get places he need to be. So they're going to lose some of the deep ball things because he's going to have to do it with timing. But Mac is a pretty good quarterback, and I think this system really fits what they're trying to do. Now, they're going to be able to run the ball better, obviously, and health will play a big factor in that. But once they get all their pieces back, offensively, they're a pretty solid football team. But they've had injuries. They have more injuries. The Purdy thing is concerning. He'll probably be out another week or two. So it'll be interesting.
Jalen Jennings had a big reception, 5 total for him, 89 yards and a touchdown. They were going down the middle of the field, Brian, San Francisco was, in a way that I thought, when we need to win the game, we know at least in New Orleans we got a chance to do it by hitting the outs and the ins, up the seams. And offense seemed to be clicking on many, many cylinders, even though Mac Jones, this is just one of those appearances because of the injury that he's going to get a chance to shine.
Now, this is one of the games where if you're looking on the schedule before it took place, I don't think this is one of the quarterback games that you look at and say, hey, man, I'm really excited to watch Spencer Rattler and Mac Jones. But if you look at the tape, if you look at the numbers, pretty good game for both of them, right? Mm-hmm. I don't think Rattler was as good, but I'm going to argue even with Kittle and even with Ayuk out, I think that, there's more talent on the San Francisco side. Mm-hmm. Pearsall had a decent game. Jake Tongs he had a nice catch. Christian McCaffrey was, he does what he does, right? A ton of production, ton of touches. They only had 77 yards rushing, and Mac Jones was able to go on the road and get a win. I think that we kind of look past Kyle Shanahan, right? Because they haven't been in a Super Bowl. They really haven't been in the upper echelon of the NFC in a couple of years now. But what he's able to do on a week-to-week basis, just plug in and playing guys, is tremendous. I mean, honestly, they continue to win football games, right? Even when they're a 6-11, a middle of the pack team, he's taken talent that probably should be in the top 3 or 4 picks in the draft, and they're still finding ways to scrape out division games and to pull off upsets. But this is a big win for San Francisco because they're 2-0, and now you're looking at Brock Purdy. You're saying, hey, we kind of trust Mac Jones a little bit, mm-hmm. right? So if he needs to play another week, or if we need to give Brock a little bit extra time, to make sure that he gets fully healthy, to make sure he's right, because I'm not 100% certain when their bye is, but it's a tremendous cushion to have a guy that you trust like Mac Jones to come in and play the way he did. Because listen, he's a guy, a lot of people wrote him off after the Patriots. I think he didn't have a ton of talent there, but hey, he showed me something today where maybe if he's not the starting quarterback for San Francisco down the stretch, if there's a team looking for a quarterback in the offseason, they're they're going to turn on the tape and say, hey, maybe this could be our guy.
Yeah, could be. Well, Bills end up going to New York. Old rivalry here. Bills 2-0. The Jets, after looking as good as they did against Pittsburgh last week, kind of laid an egg, Joey, if you ask me. They only had 3 points at the half. They end up with 10. Josh Allen, 148 yards total, no touchdowns, had a bloody nose, whatever. But they just proved that we can dominate in other areas. And even if I don't have even an average game, we're still going to beat you by 20. That's a pretty good feeling if you're in Buffalo.
Oh, it's a great feeling. Guess what? The running back rushed for over 130 yards.
Yeah.
So that tells you about the offensive line play versus the Jets defense. And the Jets will live on defense this year. I mean, offensively, they're going to try to run the ball. They're going to try to not put Justin Fields in harm's way from throwing the ball so much. But you can't, when you play offense like that, you can't afford to get behind because you don't have the horsepower to play from behind. And the Bills got up early running the ball, and the Bills were really efficient. Even when Josh didn't have a typical Josh game, but he's not needed. He didn't need to have a Josh game. He needed to be efficient and let the run game rule the game.
They rushed for 224 yards, for crying out loud. Are you kidding me? Brian, Justin Fields was 3 of 11. Tyrod Taylor was 7 of 11, together 10 for 22. They're not even throwing 50%, 54 yards in the air. You're not going to beat anybody with that.
I think it speaks a lot to Buffalo's defense. They did a phenomenal job up front. They got pressure. I know Fields is in concussion protocol right now. I know his status right now for next week is up in the air, but if there's a kid that you want in the back there playing quarterback that can run for his life when he has to, it is him. But unfortunately, I think the Jets had him in that position a little too much. But I mean, Buffalo, this is a game that was kind of over pretty quickly, right? Because the Bills ran those 43 rushes for 224 yards and 3 touchdowns. If you can do that, I don't need to throw the ball, right? I don't need to worry about that. They controlled the clock. They dominated the line of scrimmage. We opened up the show with that. They just, they came into this game saying, hey, we're better than those guys. We've seen them a lot. We know what they're going to try to do. And our 11 guys are better than their 11 guys. Doesn't matter what side of the ball we're on. And they asserted their dominance. The Bills, I think, front runner in the AFC right now. It's a game that they should have won. They did handily. When Josh went out of the game, obviously you're a little concerned, hoping it wasn't a concussion or anything because we went right out. But then, he said, hey, bloody nose. Had to get that cleared up. He did.
Yeah.
I think Trubisky came in and completed a pass. They converted a third down, which was, big at the time. Yeah, he made a nice play. Buffalo, top to bottom, they're a very, very good team. And the Jets they're not there right now. So kudos to them. Bills did what they were supposed to do. The Jets, back to the drawing board. Hopefully Justin Fields is healthy next week.
Yeah, and Joey, it has to be another thing with your offensive line to see your quarterback with the bloody nose and maybe on his jersey, and he comes back in the ball game. I'm loving that guy. I may be taking him out to dinner instead of it being the other way around on Friday nights.
Tough as nails. I mean, every offensive lineman, every offensive player, every defensive player will love that guy on their team because he's tough and he doesn't back down. And hey, you tell me who's got the best offensive line, I can tell you pretty much who won the game.
Bills next week. Now they get to host the Dolphins, right? A team that's reeling. So this is, hey, if you're a Buffalo Bills fan right now, it's circling the wagon, right? You're pretty happy with what's going on right now.
Well, the Bills will be favored. I think in preseason they said but the Bills, other than and I think they were favored by 1 point or 2 points in the first game versus Baltimore, but they're favored in every game this year, and they only leave the Eastern time zone one time.
Yeah.
Okay.
They got the Falcons off of their bye, but other than that, I don't see a game where they should have any issues in the first half of the year.
Well, let's move on. Bills 2-0, 0-2 with the Jets. Seahawks and Steelers are both 1-1 after this one. You mentioned the offensive line play. He looked like he was 24 years old in week 1 against the Jets, and Aaron Rodgers looked like he was 41 years old in 365 days. Couldn't get out of there. The Steeler offensive line wasn't protecting their quarterback. Now, they didn't do a very good job in week 1, but this was even worse here. And the Seahawks end up with a very dominating 31-17 win. Joey, your thoughts here about the problems with the Steelers, but boy, you can get some things right with a win on the road if you're the Seahawks.
Absolutely. Starting well, if I'm talking about the Steelers' offensive line, I got to start with Leonard Williams on defense, because Leonard Williams was a man, especially early in the game. Then you had Reed; those guys played well. And
Was
the
he a man or
Steelers,
was he a full-grown man? There's some full-grown men that are on that team, right?
He was a full-grown man versus the Steelers' offensive line. I mean, you got teams watching tape and chopping at the bits and like, okay, I want to play the Steelers. I can get a contract out of this. I mean, those guys, they're struggling on the offensive line. I mean, the right tackle is a struggle. The left guard is a struggle. I mean, you got they're having trouble all over the place. And again, Aaron, they can't run their whole offense, because if he's not getting rid of the ball in 2.1 seconds, he's running for his life, or he's got somebody in his face and he's trying to throw the ball even outside behind the line of scrimmage. I mean, they have problems on that line that I don't know if they have to play with the tight end as an extra tackle all the time or what they need to do, but they for them to go places, they're going to have to figure that out.
Yeah. Sam Darnold, 295 yards, 2 touchdowns for him. Are there any folks in Minnesota listening and saying, Sam, could you come on back for us? We might need you here in Minnesota. Brian, your thoughts here about the Seahawks?
Well, I mean, he got JSN involved. He had a phenomenal game. Cooper Kupp didn't do much week 1, but he was a viable option for them in week 2. The Caleb Johnson gaffe on special teams, I think, really cost the Steelers. Because despite everything, Seattle played pretty well. Darnold was good, a couple interceptions, but other than that, he was very solid. But the game was pretty tight until that issue. That's just stuff you got to clean up, right? You can't have that issue. But the Seahawks are a team right now that they're looking up at the Rams. Obviously, they had a heartbreak against San Francisco the week before. This was this is a home game for them, so obviously the crowd's going to be in it. But this is a game where Pittsburgh wants to be a playoff team, right? If they want to compete with the Ravens, if they want to compete with, the Bills, they have to win these kinds of games, right? The close ones. Aaron didn't look great, but, like Joey said, he doesn't have a lot of time back there. And if you can't run the ball consistently, if you can't block up front, there's not a whole heck of a lot you can do. And, kudos to the Seahawks, right? Because they look good on defense. They look good on defense week 1, too. Brock Purdy got beat up. He's on IR right now because of that. We thought the reason why Mac Jones played. They did a solid job there as well. But, listen, if you're the Steelers right now, I think you just look at the tape from this week, you throw it out, you say, we don't need to do this anymore. We need to clean everything up. And then you retool and you come back next week. If you're Seattle, you're in the thick of things in the division. Obviously, you're still looking up at the Rams. But, hey, you got just as much a chance as everyone else. It's good to be 1-1 and not 0-2.
Speaking of 1-1 and not 0-2, the Ravens end up with a really tough road loss in Buffalo in a night game, and then they come home. Joey, it was 3-0 after the first quarter. It was 10-3 at the half, but it's 41-17. Something happened at halftime where I think John Harbaugh, maybe just Lamar Jackson, just said, that's enough. And they opened the can of whoop ass, and they did it. 41-17 against the Browns. Browns now 0-2. Ravens get their first win. They're 1-1 here on the season. I'm worried about the Ravens, meaning I think they're a team that you have to look out for. If they can turn it on, I'm still thinking that they not only going to win the division, but they're going to go deep in the playoffs. But I don't know, because they only get 3 points in the first quarter. There are times where they wake up and other times where it looks like they need to be wakened up. Give me your thoughts here on Baltimore.
Well, I think, first of all, I think Baltimore has the best roster in the National Football League. I think Baltimore is a really, really, really good football team. Now, it's always hard playing versus divisional opponents, whether it's the Browns, who, you should kind of run over at this point because offensively they have struggles, but defensively they're still a pretty good team. I mean, they have an all-pro corner. They have a all-pro defensive lineman. The Browns aren't a bad defensive football team. Okay, right. So you're going to have some issues until you get the game going, until you can run the ball, and then Lamar can do his thing. I think he threw for 4 touchdowns, and I think he had 4 or 5 incompletions on the game. So from an efficiency standpoint, he played fantastic. But division games are always tough. If they're playing the Steelers, if they're playing those games are always tough. So it doesn't surprise me that was only 3-0. Because we if we're not looking at it in a vacuum and looking at the big picture, The Browns have, the Ravens have a lot of pieces that are championship caliber. Okay, we aren't going to really judge them on how they do in the regular season. Their issues have always come in the playoffs, being able to step up. So I think they're going to be fine, just fine.
All right. Well, 1-1 there, a home win, 41 points. Tell me what you didn't like about what Baltimore did. Did they not punt well, Brian? Give me something that they did that they didn't dominate in, because everything else it seemed to work.
Well, Derrick Henry was the polar opposite of what we saw in week 1. He was unstoppable week 1, and week 2 he barely averaged 2 yards a carry. 11 touches, 23 yards. That's not really great for a lot of teams. If your running back is doing that, you're probably not going to win the game. But when you got Lamar Jackson back there, I think, hey, it doesn't really matter. You got a chance. He was tremendous throwing the ball. He made some plays with his legs. But Roquan Smith was a menace in this game. 15 tackles. He had 3 tackles for loss. Listen, I know the Browns are talent-wise, they're not at the level the Ravens are, but you still got to go out on Sunday and play the game, right? And Baltimore did that. I think Cleveland's game plan was, hey, we're going to try to keep it close. We're going to try to run the ball ourselves. Let's stop that 22 guy over there, because obviously Buffalo couldn't. They did that, but then, hey, arguably the best quarterback in the world comes out in the second half, lights a fire underneath them. A game, again, that was very close at halftime, and they ended up scoring 41 points and blowing them out of the water. So this is what Baltimore's capable of. At this point, it's just, hey, at a certain point, we got to turn it on for maybe 2 or 3 quarters against some of these teams, and they did that, and they end up getting a win.
Yeah, they couldn't run the ball very well at all. They didn't throw for over didn't even get to 200 yards. But you know what? 41 points, I'll take that any time, especially under those 2 circumstances. That will be okay. Denver, they're 1-1. They were 1-0 going into Indianapolis. I'm surprised a little bit, Joey. I didn't know if the Colts had it. I thought Denver was, they're going to go in there and they're going to take this one. Colts have a little bit of fight in them. Good for them.
I'm surprised too. But again, we're talking about a team that's got a pretty good offensive line. The Colts have put money in that offensive line, and those guys. Hey, Danny Dimes is playing well for those guys. He's playing efficient football. And again, you had the fluke play at the end of the game, but the rules are the rules. I mean, they broke the rules. They were able to re-kick, and guess what? The kid made the kick to his credit. So hey, if you told me before the game who I thought would win, I thought Denver would win, and I'm not sure I thought it would be even super close. But again, Indianapolis has some pieces. The running back is really good at Indy. I mean, I think we forget about him sometimes. Jonathan Taylor, he's a really good football player. Okay, all they're asking the quarterback not to do right now is just don't kill us. Don't blow the game. Keep us close. Don't have turnovers. Don't take the sacks.
Yeah, 165 yards on 25 carries for Taylor. Dane Jones had, 23 or 34, 316 yards and a touchdown for him. Don't give it to those guys. And we got a chance to win. And guess what they did? 6 points there in the fourth quarter was enough for them to end up getting the win. Brian, let's move on to the Panthers 0-2 going to Arizona. Cardinals 2-0 now. 27-22 is the final there. I'm not real sure if I'm an Arizona fan, because we've beaten the Saints and Carolina. Between the two of them, they're 0-4. But we're 2-0, and so I don't care. I'm happy that we're 2-0, and let's go Cardinals.
You know what? It's one of those games where you got to win these ones, right? The ones where you're favored, the ones where you're playing against bad teams. You still got to go out there, you still got to play, and you still got to put a W in the box score. But the Cardinals defense has looked very well the first couple of weeks, right? Spencer Rattler and Bryce Young. Obviously, maybe not the toast of the town as far as quarterbacks are in the league right now. They're still young guys figuring it out, but they've kind of stifled them, right? Other than Bryce Young had a pretty good game in the box score, but he didn't do a lot when the game mattered, right? Once the game's out of reach, once they're down 2 or 3 scores, and the Cardinals say, hey, listen, we're going to play our cover 2. We're going to prevent. They can have 5, 6, 7, 8 completions on this drive. As long as we can eat up 5, 6, 7 minutes, we're good with it. But kudos to this defense, because they've looked really good the first couple of weeks. And I think that's going to be crucial for them going forward, because I think Kyler Murray has been bad the last couple of years. I don't think he's been as good as they've needed him to be to win a lot of these games, but they've also asked him to do a lot. So I think the idea is, hey, they got a young running back who they drafted from Florida State last year, Trey Benson, who's been a nice addition, right? He's a nice 1-2 punch with James Conner, who's been their red zone they're bully. I'm going to call them a bully inside the 5-yard line, right? If they get down there, they have a very good chance of scoring if they give him the football. But Arizona's done well. It was a game where, Marvin Harrison Jr. really didn't do a whole heck of a lot. Other than Trey McBride, the receiving numbers weren't great, but they played good defense. They ran the ball. They won the game. You can't really ask for much else. Panthers end up losing their starting center and their starting guard in the game, both to hopefully not season-ending injuries, but it looks like it. Kind of a mess in Carolina right now, but good on the Cardinals to get a good win.
All right, let's move on to the featured game, the Super Bowl rematch. Joey, if I'm 2-0 right now versus 0-2, and I'm the Eagles, I'm thinking life is really good for us right now. I don't know how many holes are in the boat right now. I know we're taking on some water at 0-2 if I'm Kansas City. I'm just not sure. Are you, of whether or not this is a real issue right now, or they just went against two really good teams and they're going to get it right back here by in the next 4 or 5 games, they'll be at or even above 500. What are your first thoughts and impressions here on Kansas City falling 0-2? On
Kansas City, I do think that they will be a better overall football team. Again, I mean, I keep harping on this, but that right tackle over there, he struggled again with penalties, offsides, illegal motion, that kind of thing, and that's just a killer for a drive. They haven't run the ball effectively enough this year so far, so they have to clean that up, obviously, and again, that goes back to line play. And again, they're missing pieces at receiver, and I think they came into the year wanting to be like they were 4 or 5 years ago, where they could threaten you down the field and then beat you underneath. Okay, but right now they aren't really able to threaten you down the field. So defenses play differently versus them right now. So, and the Eagles, they're a really good defensive football team. They're efficient offensively, but they're a really good defensive team. Jalen Hurts would do just enough to win. If you take the Super Bowl out, okay, when he was just a stud, he's got it in him. So we know he's got it in him. But right now he's just playing efficient football. They have a new offensive coordinator. They want Saquon to run the ball, and they have another kid, big kid, that they use. I think that was the kid that came from Green Bay. He was in Green Bay a year.
A.J. Dillon.
And so they want to run the football. Okay, and when it's close, that they have the best play in football right now. When they need 1 yard or 2 yards, they got the best play in football right now. But Kansas City, from their standpoint, I'm not super concerned unless they go down to if they're after 4 games, they're or 5 games, they're 1-4. Now I'm concerned. That's a big hole. I don't think that's going to be the case, but I would be concerned. I'm not super concerned yet.
Okay. I'm not saying that the boat's taking on water, but the mice are starting to squeak and look around. When the mice are running up the stairs to get out of the boat, that's when there's some problems. Brian, your thoughts here on the Super Bowl rematch? Did it live up to the hype?
It wasn't a lot of excitement. There weren't a ton of big plays. Nothing really vertical except for that one throw Mahomes had to Thornton at the end that was a touchdown. He should have had it for a second one, but I don't think the boat on the other side, the Eagles boat, is necessarily without holes right now, right? I know, listen, they've done what they needed to do, but they were a couple of CD Lamb drops away from being 1-1, after this outcome, or coming into this game 0-1 the same way, right? This was a close game. This was a dogfight. If you were to ask AJ Brown behind closed doors, hey, how does 4 catches for 27 yards sound? And it doesn't sound too good, right? There's not a lot of verticality in this passing game right now. I know Dallas Goedert was out, and you could tell, right? He was tremendous for them week 1, but it wasn't that good. They did enough to win. The defense is good enough, and hey, listen, more power to them, right? If you're going to come out and you're not going to do a whole heck of a lot on offense, but at 4th down at the beginning of the second half, where Andy Reid gambles and decides to go for it, they don't get it, and that was a huge play in this game. Yes, it flipped the script. It gave the Eagles 3 points because the Eagles didn't get a first down, right? But they were in field goal range. They ended up getting 3 points. That was the difference. Butker also missed a field goal, but I think both of these teams kind of have some problems right now. But it's a lot better being a 2-0 team with problems than being an 0-2 team with problems. So I think, obviously the Eagles are still in a good spot. They're still in first place in the division. Everyone's still looking up at them. I know being the Super Bowl champs, right? Everyone's got that game circled on their calendar. That's just how it is. You're going to get everybody's best game.
Sure.
And if they can keep finding ways to win at a certain point, it really doesn't matter.
Let's move on to the next game here. This is the Sunday night game that take place in front of a national audience. Vikings were 1-0. They end up kind of laying an egg there offensively. Joey, I'm thinking, what is it, 6 sacks, 6.5 or 6 sacks from the Falcon defense. They were all over the place. Made it very difficult for J.J. McCarthy to complete any passes. He ended up being 11 for 21 for 158 yards. Michael Penix not much better, but thank goodness Falcons have a new field goal kicker, because that's what basically it was a battle of there for most of the game. Only one touchdown scored.
Yeah, it really was. I do have concerns about Minnesota, direction of Minnesota right now, especially offensively. Obviously, I'm going to keep saying about the offensive line. I mean, they gave up 6 sacks, and McCarthy didn't help that sometime. But again, JJ's really played 1 to 2, 1.5 good quarters all year. Okay, so he's really playing like a first-year rookie player right now. So, and on top of that, now he's injured and he's going to miss some time. And Carson Wentz is going to be their guy. So I think Minnesota's going to have some challenges coming up. Atlanta, they played just well enough to win. That Bijan is a special player. When they're able to get him as many touches as they can get, he'll make things happen. And I think that's the key to them right now. I don't think Penix is the key. I think defensively, if you can get 6 sacks in the game and your running back can have 135, 25, 35, 50 total yards between rushing and receiving, then I think you have a pretty good chance to win.
And does that take the pressure off of Michael Penix, where he doesn't have to dive all over the place and come up with a big play? He had no touchdowns, but no interceptions. Don't lose the game. Is that kind of what they're asking him to do right now? Play within yourself. Use that quick release. Get the ball downfield. Don't always go out to the flats. Trust Pitts over the middle, and trust London, and trust Mooney. Is there I put it this way. When Ben Roethlisberger was given the keys to the car in Pittsburgh, they basically said, look at all these great pieces around you, okay? Don't blow this kid. Don't try to force anything in the way. And it went pretty well. Next thing you know, they're winning a Super Bowl. So I'm wondering if Michael Penix has the same type of philosophy right now. Do you think there's any of that there, Joey? Look, just play within your game, but don't force stuff. Just let the other guys around you do what they do well, and we'll be fine.
He better. They're paying those other guys too, so yeah. Make them earn their money. Make the tight end earn his money. Okay, the tight end hadn't been a vocal point in their offense since he's been there, but they need to get him involved so much more. They need to get the receivers involved so much. They have some guys with size and some speed, but that quarterback is his security. That running back is his security blanket when he's in pass coverage. Well, they love him, and as many times as you can get him the ball, the better.
No disrespect, Brian. I want one more question with Joey. Is I've known from high school level, college, you name it, when you're getting the ball, you practice a little bit harder, don't you? You're going to see guys work a little bit after practice to work on some things and try to, hey, I'm going to work on my breakaway here today. I'm going to work on catching the balls on the backside, or, make sure that I hit the jugs gun and catch an extra 50 balls. Do you see a lot of that?
Absolutely. And I'm sure, if you don't think you're getting the ball from a receiver standpoint because you have a young quarterback, you're not working as hard. That's just human nature. So they have to find a way to get everybody more involved in the game. And again, especially the tight end should be a young receiver's best friend. Okay, especially a tight end that's as athletically gifted as the one they have.
Yeah, a quarterback's best friend, right? Tight end,
going
over the middle. No, I completely understand. Yes. Brian, field goal. A return with a field goal from the Vikings. This wasn't a fun game to watch if you're looking for rah-rah type stuff, but it really told me that the defenses were kind of in control, and I saw the Falcons moving around and trying to create havoc with 4 men down the line, bringing a fifth, show 6. Only drop back 3. Sometimes you bring 7. All kinds of different things that I thought that would be mid-season Falcons. They're doing it in week 2.
Well, I think you got to tip your cap to both these coordinators, right? I think Ulbricht and Flores are two of the best in the business at what they do. I think the Falcons' game plan initially was, hey, it's going to be rocking. It's going to be loud. That's a very tough place to go play. They got great fans. And Flores is going to throw 100 different looks at you, right? He's going to do the same thing out of 100 different formations, and he's going to do everything he possibly can to confuse you. I think the goal was this. I think the offensive line kind of embarrassed, kind of had their feelings hurt a little bit week one, right? Because they couldn't move the ball at all on the ground. It was Penix had to carry that load week one through the air with his own legs, making plays on fourth down. And I think those 5 guys up front said, hey, we got to be better. And they were from the get-go, right? I think this game probably would have been a little bit more lopsided. I know London had that fumble where he's catching, he's running, and he just doesn't secure it, and he's about to get into the red zone, and he just puts it on the ground. But I think the game plan was we see some stuff on tape from McCarthy that we feel like we can exploit, right? And we talked about it earlier, the offensive line play. I think Minnesota's offensive line play just isn't where it needs to be right now. It's just it's not. They didn't run the ball effectively. McCarthy, some of that, like Joey said, some of that's on him. You know, some of the pressure, some of the sacks are on him, but some of it are on the 5 guys up front not being able to do their job and hold up. But there wasn't anything spectacular from Penix, but when they needed a conversion, when they needed a completion, you know, he made some plays. It's the Bijan Robinson show, right? Everyone coming into the season, he's the number 1 fantasy guy. He's got a chance to win offensive MVP. You saw why. Some of the cuts and making guys miss and turning 2-yard runs into 9-yard runs and turning plays that should be negative and somehow getting back to the line of scrimmage or even getting forward. But Algier had a good game too, which shows me that the offensive line, the Falcons were able to do what they wanted to up front. I think they won the toss. They accepted. They wanted to receive, and I think a lot of that was kind of a mindset, right? We're going to run the ball at you. We're going to hit these guys up front, and we're going to put you back on your toes. And if you're not coming after us, because like I said, Brian Flores is one of the best in the business at what he does on defense. And Minnesota's got a good group over there. But Falcons did everything they possibly could to take the pressure off their young quarterback. And Minnesota, they couldn't replicate it. I think that was the outcome of the game.
218 yards on the ground, including a negative 1 yard there by Michael Penix because of the sack. But I will tell you this, as nice as that number is, on 3rd or 4th and 1, the Falcons have been dealing with this for decades. They cannot get the first down. They have to settle for the field goal, and that to me is still troublesome. I'm not speaking ill will of any team out there, but that's just something that I've seen here in the Atlanta area for quite a while. I still don't think that has been fixed yet.
Minnesota had that same issue too. They had a 4th and 1 center quarterback exchange. They couldn't get it off. They end up not converting. Falcons get points out of it. You know, it's a big deal. You have to be able to you need to get a yard. You have to be able to get a yard.
Yep. And even if you have to push it like what Philadelphia is, they don't care. They just got the yard. And guess what? Then they get 6 or 7 instead of just 3. Buccaneers continue to prove that I don't care if there's time on the clock, and I've got Baker Mayfield and the way he is received in that building, Joey. Everyone loves him. The guy that takes out the trash, the lady that answers the phone, the lady that says, here's what our schedule is, here's what you guys need to do, the guy that does this, whatever. Baker Mayfield finds a way to win, and he did it again against Houston. 20-19 is the final there on the last play of the game.
Baker's a gamer. I mean, we can say it however we want. Baker's a gamer. He's tough-minded. He's a tough kid. He thrives on pressure. It doesn't bother him. And right now, I would say he's a top 10 quarterback in our league since 2013. If you go, I'm sorry, since 2023. If you go back and you pull up his numbers since 2023, he will rank in the top 5 in every single metric of quarterback play. So Baker Mayfield is a top 10 quarterback in our league, and the first 2 weeks of this season, he's shown you why.
Yeah, it's amazing. Texans at home, Brian, they got the game. They got everything they need. Oops, now they didn't. What do you take away if you're C.J. Stroud and the rest of the Texans offense? Did you leave any of that game on the field?
Well, I mean, they came out pretty strong. 10 points in the first quarter. You get points on both your drives and kind of a goose egg in the second and third quarter, right? And for both teams, right? The Bucs didn't do much on their side either, but we keep alluding to the offensive line play. Just it wasn't there for Houston. The Bucs were able to generate a lot of pressure. They got some guys up front to where they made sure via the draft and free agency they brought guys in to where they can make that happen. But CJ Stroud did not look comfortable. I know a lot of people are kind of wondering where Nico Collins is at, but he needs some time to get down the field, right? The one play he had a chance to get down the field, he had one-on-one coverage, was a touchdown. But then the rest of the game, Tampa said, no, we're going to take that away from you. They did a great job. Nick Chubb had an average game. They didn't really run the ball a whole heck of a lot. I think that was kind of the key to what worked well for Tampa is even when they're playing ping pong, going back and forth in the second and third quarter, switching field position, every time Houston would pin him deep, they get a big run from Rachaad White, or they get one from Bucky Irving, and they'd be able to flip the field again. And Houston just was unable to, they couldn't get points together. They couldn't convert when they needed to. And it's a lot of fun watching Baker Mayfield play football. I have to say that. He had an instance where, it's a big third down. He's able to get out of the pocket and he makes a play and he gets the first down. He falls down. He bangs on his knee. And it looks like his season's over, right? And then Will Anderson kind of says something over him and he says, "What did you just say to me?" And he gets up, he gets in his face, and just there's a fire lit under him, right? It's just he has a ton of fun out there. He doesn't take anything from anybody. And with how he plays, why would he, right? It's just like you said when we started talking about the game, if Baker Mayfield has the football and he has time, the Buccaneers have a chance.
His teammates love him. They're always going to love a quarterback like that. They love him.
Joey, do me a favor and describe what it's like for a new environment or a different scene. Baker goes to Cleveland. He makes a couple funny commercials that I still think to this day, the guys that wrote him, he took advantage of the situation. Like, this is my house, this stadium right here. And I don't even know what the product was. I honestly can't tell you, but I enjoyed watching those. And he was a part of I'll call it the quarterback conundrum there in Cleveland, right? They had 20 quarterbacks in 15 years. No one knew who he didn't. I don't think he got a fair chance before he got booed off the field. He goes to LA, helps win a couple of big games there when Stafford was hurt. And then he comes to Tampa and he just takes ownership of it. And I don't know why, but it's working. And part of that is just because he's taking ownership of it. This is my team, and I'll take the city on my back. I'll take the team on my back, and I'll take the division and whatever else. And he's just gone out there and he's relaxed. He's played well and he's winning. He's always been a leader. Okay. And guys have always followed him. Now he gets to Cleveland. He's the number 1 overall draft pick. A lot is expected. And at times he played to that level. At other times he did not play very well, but he led them to a playoff game. And then, he has a couple bad games. The fans start booing him and he's shipped out of town. Okay. Now he's at a place where he's actually wanted. Okay. He feels the love down in Tampa. His personality is a real fit for that locker room of guys they have down there, especially the defensive guys. They love Baker's personality, and Baker feel like he's one of the guys. Okay. He feel like I don't have to always wear a cape to come play, but when I do, I'm ready. And I got, 2 or 3 really good receivers on the outside. I've got a running game that continues to improve. My offensive line is pretty good. And we've even moved our center over to tackle, and he's playing great because we lost our tackle. He's going to be out for the first 4 weeks of the game because of an injury. Tampa's going to win that division. They're going to win that division. Yeah, they're good. And you get Bucky Irvin. He has the cape. We'll give him the ball, and he does. Mike Evans has a cape. Give him the ball, and they do. I think that's a very good analogy in terms of, how you distribute and let the guys that have the talent to get the ball in the end zone and let them have it. Let them get it in the end zone. It fits. Final thoughts before we move on, Brian, between Tampa and Houston. Anything else to add?
Becca Ibuka's looked pretty good for them too. I got to give, he's done a great job. But, the thing is, Baker inside this offense has a ton of weapons. And one thing that he does really well is he makes sure everybody gets the ball, right? Everybody gets their touches. And it's not forced, but we're going to make sure that everyone's involved, everyone's ready at all times. And like you said earlier, it's your turn to wear the cape, right? It doesn't really matter who's doing it. They got a good tight end group over there as well. It's just the coaching staff too. The Bucs coaching staff has been tremendous, right? They have been. Todd Bowles is tremendous. And, I think a lot of what this has to allude to is, you get Bowles out of a bad situation with the Jets. You get Baker at a bad situation with Cleveland. They're able to kind of meet here. A couple of guys that kind of misfit toys, right? They find their island, and here they are, and they're succeeding. And, they're doing it. Like I said, Tristan Wirfs isn't even playing right now. He
Right.
might be the best player on that offense, and he's not even suiting up. And they're still they win on the road into Atlanta, division game. They win in a tough environment where it's a game where if you look at the stat sheet, you're like, how did they pull this one out? And then they do the same thing in Houston, right? You find ways to win games, you find ways to win the division, and Tampa just does it. They do it a couple years now. It's becoming a trend, which is good for this organization.
Yeah, then you just keep going deep in the playoffs, and hopefully you get a little bit further each and every year. Todd Bowles sometimes looks like somebody just put a big thing of Limburger cheese in front of him, and stale fish odors and whatever. He just gives that look. The players love it. He lets them coach, and it's worked for us. All right, last game. So the latest there of the two Monday nighters, the LA Chargers go on the road to Allegiant Field there in Las Vegas. They pretty much dominate from the beginning. They're up 10-3 at the end of the first quarter, 17-6 at the half. I feel pretty good about the Chargers. I have to admit, this isn't a Harbaugh thing, but because Harbaugh's there and I know what he's done, Joey, I'm going to get real tired of who has it better than us. No, but that's going to get old in a pro locker room. But you know what? His coaches around him, he's got big guys. He's got talented guys. He's got guys that are well paid. And he doesn't have any cap problems. But doggone, if I think they keep getting better every week. That's one of the neat things about what they do. They're very impressive. It wasn't a blowout, but it was a great division win on the road.
They have great players at every position. They have a couple really good wide receivers. One's young, one's old. They don't have a lot of money invested there. They have money. They have first rounders invested on the offensive line. Alt is playing great. He had to move from right tackle to left tackle once the other kid who just had become the highest paid offensive lineman in the game, he gets hurt. But they're big and strong up front. They don't have a lot of high-end money invested in the backfield at running back position. The quarterback, they have a lot of money invested in him, and he's played really well for them. He's a big, strong kid who athletically I would put in the top 10 quarterbacks in our league because he's a big guy that can run, get out of pressure, but he can also stand tall in the pocket and get rid of the ball. Defensively, Khalil got hurt, which would be a problem, but for them going down on. But they have some young guys who can rush the passer, and obviously you got another linebacker, number 0, I believe he was. I can't think of his name, who made a great impact the other night. And obviously you got the stud, number 3, the safety back there. So the Los Angeles Chargers are a really, really good football team. They're sound at every position, and they're going to be a hard out this year. They really are.
Hey, Joey, I think one of the big problems is like you just did a second ago, and I've done it almost every single time. I still want to call them the San Diego Chargers.
Right. We're showing our age when we do that. Yes.
I know. These young kids, these whippersnappers that are out there now, what are you talking about? They're the LA Chargers. No, they're not. They're the San Diego Chargers. Brian, your thoughts here. Are the Raiders in trouble, or is that they just faced a better team, and that's just the way the division is right now?
Well, Bowers is a little banged up coming into the contest. So, I mean, he's a guy who they rely on heavily offensively. And then Gene T was not able to get a lot going on the ground. That's kind of been a trend now over the first 2 weeks. It's just once he gets going, I think they're going to be a lot better off. But it's just figuring it out for now. Gino kind of looked bewildered a little bit back there on certain instances. A couple of throws just weren't there. He had the 3 interceptions, which, again, you're not really going to beat a lot of teams if you turn the ball over like that 3 times. But McConkey hasn't been spectacular, but he's been good enough, right? Quentin Johnson, who a lot of Chargers fans were dogging on last year, he had a lot of drops, a lot of missed opportunities. He's catching the football and he's scoring, and it's phenomenal for the Chargers because they're getting everybody involved, right? They didn't run the ball particularly well, but they didn't have to. They played great defense. They scored points when they needed to, and this is one of those slugfest games, right? It's a divisional opponent. We don't like you. You don't like us. It could be you could get the result like you did with the Giants and Cowboys, or you get kind of a less entertaining version like you had in Las Vegas. But it's kudos to the Chargers, man. I hope Khalil Mack is okay because he was having a big impact before that. I saw him in a sling. I don't know if they released the official injury report yet, but Chargers got some weapons. They're 2-0. They get to say they can puff out their chest a little bit. Hey, we beat Kansas City. and things are looking pretty good for them. If you're the Raiders, I think you need to clean some stuff up. They're close, but they're not quite there yet, and they need to get a little healthy. And I think Geno needs to turn back the turnovers a little bit.
Yeah, well, 2-0 LA Chargers, that's a good place for that ball club to be in. And Joey, I'd be remiss if I didn't give you an opportunity to talk a little bit about, it has nothing to do with this game, but has everything to do with the game of football, and talk a little bit about this Tom Brady situation. You want to give our fans a little bit of an idea of what it is that has been happening and what your thoughts are, at least on how Tom, his ownership in the Raiders, his job in the booth with the number one group there with Fox, and how that's all coming into play right now.
Well, it's a little bit concerning from the standpoint of Tom is a minority owner with the Raiders, so whatever he does with the Raiders is fine. I mean, he can sit in the booth, he can do whatever he needs to do. He can listen to plays. I mean, you have someone in Indianapolis, she's doing the same thing, but she's on the sideline, so I have no issue with that. Okay, the problem comes in. He's the number one. He's one on the lead analyst team with Fox. Okay, so now he goes into interview other players and other organizations, and when the Raiders play those teams, now you have a problem. You have whether it's an actual problem or it just looks like a problem. Everybody has concerns. So, an example. I'll give you two examples. If Jerry Jones were working for Fox, and he decides to they decide to send him into the Eagles organization to interview someone, that would look a little different. That would look a little strange. Okay, Tom is under a similar thing. He has a similar thing going on here, and then the way the NFL works out, fortunately. The Raiders play the Bears in 2 weeks. Fox is doing the game. Okay, so Tom is going to interview the Bears players next week. Okay, before their game, and then 2 weeks later, the Raiders play the Bears. Okay, mm-hmm. So if I'm the Bears, I don't talk to Tom Brady. I don't give him any information. I don't do anything that will tip off our hand to our players, our injury, how we run different things. I just don't do it. I just don't feel comfortable doing it. Now, I'm not saying Tom would do something out of line, because Lord knows he had nothing to do with Deflategate, right? So we're not worried about that. However, it's just a bad look.
Yeah.
It's just a bad look. So the NFL really has to find a way to kind of circumvent some of these things that are going to pop up. And again, from a scheduling standpoint, it's ironic that the Raiders play Chicago 2 weeks later after Tom has to go there and do the game.
Yeah. Well, Lord knows we don't need any more rules in the NFL. We got plenty of them. But your analogy of Jerry Jones going into Philadelphia, I'm going to disagree with you right there. Jerry would never do that. He'd get hit in the back of the head with hot dog wrappers by all the fans that would be booing him and saying, I don't want you coming in our building. You can, Jerry, you can't interview our players. Come on, we got to come up with a better example. But I see what you're saying. Here's another thing. Some average fan, and I'm not, discrediting anybody, goes, well, if he interviews them, the whole of the interview is going to be on television. No, it's not. They're edited down to very small snippets, and there might be something before the cameras even go on where Tom would notice, hey, this guy's limping. This guy may not be 100%. This guy was rubbing his shoulder right beforehand. I watched him practice. You get to see certain things that as an owner, you would certainly convey to your team that you want them to win. So talk a little bit more before we go to Brian's side of some of the discrepancies and the reasons that this may need to be monitored a little more than just, hey, he's a reporter, but he's also an owner. There's nothing to see here. Don't worry about any of it.
Right. I mean, there's just no rule in place. Now, under total transparency, he is not allowed to go into a team's facility. Okay. That was the rule that the NFL laid down.
As an owner, he's not allowed.
As an owner, he's not allowed to do these interviews at a team facility. So,
however, Joey, real quick, Joey, let me just ask: if he's an invited guest of the owner, if Arthur Blank says, "Come on into Atlanta, I want to have you out for lunch and dinner, and we're going to go out on my boat. That's a completely different scenario, correct?
That's correct. That's
All right.
correct. He would be allowed to do that. But
Ryan, your thoughts here? Anything? Oh, I'm sorry, Joe. Are you done?
no,
Please
but just from his job on Fox, he can't.
Yes.
He can't go into another team's facility because his other job as owner, those two things are meshing together, and he's not allowed to do that.
Yeah. Brian, you mentioned something earlier about the Brady rule. There's been several rules that deal with tucks and with deflations and with other things. Talk a little bit about what might be in play here.
Well, before it's all said and done, we might have the Brady rule book, right? I mean, he might fill it. We might fill up a whole book worth of stuff. But like Joey said, he's barred from practices. He's barred from facilities. And I think, Joey, what you said earlier is, listen, if you're a coach, if you're a GM, if you're a scout, doesn't really matter. I think your job right now is to say, hey, listen, if Tom comes into our production meetings, which he's going to be there if we're on Fox, you can't tell him anything, right? So I think, from a entertainment standpoint, it almost kind of hurts Fox, right? Because there's a lot of stuff, that the ins and outs, and I'm willing to tell Tony Romo everything, right? It really doesn't matter, because once the game starts, it's not a huge deal. They're going to get it on tape anyways. They're going to see what we're doing, but it kind of scales back what Fox can go into. Now, Brady playing as long as he did and knowing as many people as he did and understanding how the game works as much, he could sit here, he could recognize and say, oh, they're trying to do this because they're trying to take advantage of this coverage or whatever it might be, but a lot of it is it's just murky waters, right? It's not breaking the rules, it's not twisting it, but it is a little bit, right? You know what I mean? It's to the point where it's just it's uncomfortable for some people, right? It's the elephant in the room, because they're showing him in. I mean, he's got a headset on. He knows what the plays are back and forth, and he's like, oh, I got to get back home tonight, and I got to do my homework for the game that I'm calling on Sunday.
Joey, let me ask you a question. When Brian brings up the Tony Romo situation, I don't think he'd do it, but Tony, if he still has ties with the Cowboys and Jerry says, hey, tell me everything that the Eagles just told you, because I want to know what happens right before Sunday's game if he's doing the Eagles-Cowboys game, is that also a violation, or are there some issues there with that?
I'm sure that there would be issues, but it's not to say that it's not going on already. I mean, a phone call could be made from anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot of ex-players that are analysts now.
Right.
So that could happen anyway. But the difference is they aren't team owners who are sitting in their team's press box.
Yeah.
That's where the difference comes in here.
Yeah. Ownership has its privileges, and they also have some disadvantages. As Brian mentioned, there's some certain lockouts, and you're prohibited from being in certain places at certain times. And I'm not saying Tony Romo would say anything. I'm not saying he wouldn't say anything. I don't know. I'm just giving another scenario of an example where, again, I keep the lawyers out of it, but I want to make sure that we don't need to make a whole bunch of Brady rules in order to be able to just watch a game. Take him off the game, then move him to another game, and never let him have a conflict of the Raiders or a team that's on the Raiders schedule in a week or so. You can do that, but they're not going to.
Or, any game that the Raiders are playing one of the opponents that he's doing the game within the next 4 weeks. If there's a 4-week window, then he can't do that game.
Would it be fair to go 3? Because I know the average film session is 3 weeks.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Right, it could go 3, but the point is, teams do self-evaluation, they change things, yada yada yada. So all those things matter, okay? But if you're playing in a tight window like this, 2 weeks when the Raiders are playing Chicago, then that's a problem.
We got the Bear game that Brady's doing on Sunday, and then the next Sunday. So really, it's 8 days.
Yes.
If you're 8 days, and that's different. Would it be proactive of Fox to say, here's what we're going to do. We're going to move Brady from a couple of these games and let the number 2 or the number 3 team take over. It's going to hurt our ratings a little bit, but we can do that in order for this not to be a problem. Would that be a resolution?
So let me ask this question. What does Fox have to lose by not doing it? They don't have anything to lose.
I think they lose Brady if the league says you can't do this.
The league is not going to do this. The league is pro Brady. They feel like him being involved with Fox helps their bottom line, which is dollars. Fox feels like Brady being there helps their bottom line, which is dollars. They're paying Tom Brady $37.5 million a year to do games. So none of this is going to happen. Okay, the Fox doesn't care if it looks like there's some kind of impropriety. The league would have to talk to Fox. The league would have to say, you know what, we're going to have to change the rule after the season. I don't think the league will change the rule in season. That's not what they've typically done. Any rule changes have been after the season. So whatever's happening now, I think will happen. And then if there's a way to change it after the season, they'll do that.
Well, if there's any team that the NFL will not want to have to change the rule to help, and that's going to be the Las Vegas Raiders. They will never do anything to help that organization. Right. Yeah. Last word, Brian?
Well, listen, as long as Tom behaves, I think we're okay, right? But I think the question is if he doesn't, because listen, Tom's got a history of behaving, right? He's the poster boy for not breaking any rules, no suspensions, nothing, right? But if he does tweak the rules,
he has been suspended, and his phone has been confiscated. And so I'm not disagreeing.
That happens to everybody. There's not a player. You can't name any player. No, this happens to every quarterback.
If you're in New England, you said he's got a halo around him. Yes, I get it. But every team outside of New England goes,
he took half the money he should have. He's a saint. Come on, get out of here. But the only issue becomes if he does break the rules, right? Because then it opens up an entire new problem. Because then you're sitting here thinking, this guy either has to be removed from Fox or removed from ownership, and both of those processes are messy, right? But I think as long as Mr. Brady behaves himself, we're okay. But track record and everything, right? So you got to ask the questions. It's just it is what it is. Given his history, got to ask.
What's the area code in Las Vegas? I'd love to see his phone to see if there are any calls that go to Mark Davis and say, Mark, guess what? And he starts speaking Pig Latin or texting him in some other
Morse code
in Portuguese. Maybe Giselle taught him some Portuguese along the way. Final thoughts here, Joey, before we head out here.
Week 2 was great. Is a great week of football. So that was great. And again, we have 15 games left, so nobody's out of it right now. But there are signs that some teams are out of it. But the Kansas Cities of the world, they're 0-2, but they're not dead in the water yet. And then you have teams like Cincinnati who are 2-0 that is not looking so good. So it's funny. Again, it all evens out in the end, but we have 15 regular season weeks left.
Yeah, well, offensive linemen and Brady rules and all things in between. It was a pretty good week. Final thoughts from you, Brian?
Bears, Titans, Giants. You guys are out. Sorry, you are out. You're out, right? You're not, but you're out, right? Saints,
No, not this early, please. No, we don't want to have 15 more weeks where we have nothing.
Listen, it's never too early to start the mock drafts, right? It's never too early to start. Listen, maybe Arch Manning isn't number 1 on your board anymore, but there's some other guys, right? There's some good quarterbacks. LSU's got a kid who's pretty good. There's some other guys, right? But I'd say right now, listen, it's very early. Things happen. Teams can start clicking. Teams can stop clicking, but right now, I think the Packers are your Super Bowl favorite. The NFC, I think the Ravens and the AFC. Although they're going to have to go through Buffalo, they might have to go play in New York, which isn't going to be an easy thing to do. But we got 15 more to go. I'm excited. We got 15 more to go.
Well, Christmas is right around the corner when Walmart has your sleighs and Christmas lights all on display before Halloween. So get ready for that. And Brian is saying is that there's some organizations out there that just go to Walmart and go get your Christmas stuff now. Just do it because it's not going to be well,
better. Might as well get out of the way early, right? Yeah, absolutely.
We appreciate you being a part of the show, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. This has been week 2 here of our NFL wrap-up show. Sorry that we were on a Tuesday, but that late night last night ended up in a bonehead move by me. So we appreciate you sticking around. We're an hour and a half into the show, and we still have a lot that we could talk about, but we're going to give you the rest of your evening back. So thank you, everybody, for being a part of the show. We appreciate it. Have a fantastic